members of the public, was to recap what we've done, so everyone's on the same sheet of music, caught up to the same page. We've determined the material condition, we've identified the space needs, we obtained the courthouse requirements from the judiciary, we've interviewed all the county office holders from the space needs, we've developed rough order of magnitude estimates, very rough order level magnitude, plus or minus 100%. Investigated adding on to the existing courthouse, that was one of our earlier studies that we did, vetted an initial courthouse concept with the public, which everyone kind of remembers, developed an additional courthouse design that you'll see today, and we are actively working on the acquisition strategy for the building exterior restoration. To refresh what we've gotten from the board so far, you all said take the long-term approach to have a campus concept and co-location of the county administration, eliminate, minimize rental space, and begin with the building envelope restoration on the jail because of the chimney issue of safety. And then in May, we went through the option of adding on to the back of this building. It became very obvious to everyone that that was not a viable option. And then in June, we developed additional concepts for the courthouse. Next slide. Thank you. First of all, when I start this, when I did the courthouse design options, I want to clearly state these are concepts. These are not detailed designs. They're not ready to go to a builder. They're just concepts. So don't get hung up that, at least I think we got the color of the roof dark this time. But anyway, and they're 3D models, so it doesn't look like real life. Lines are sharper. If you're not used to dealing with 3D models, it looks a lot starker than what it will in real life. So anyway, we were going to present two options for having the combined court functions, clerk, and commonwealth attorney all in one building. That's option 2, which I'll go through these in more detail, which is an option we pulled back that we had looked at earlier, and option 6, which is the one that we presented last time, but this time it's got a new set of clothes, so it looks a lot different. All right. Both of these allow all remaining space needs to be met with existing buildings. And there's a possible relocation of the old administration building, which we'll talk about later. Then we also, because people were interested, why can't we have a bunch of little buildings around? All right, we looked at a court function only building. We did 2 options for that. They're not small, but I want to point out that we did not find the additional 10,000 square feet of building that we're going to need to make up all the other space. And when we look at the site plans, you'll see why that's going to be kind of hard. So we kind of got to this point, which is not nearly the same level of detail, and said, if we go any farther and spend more money with the architect, we need some direction to go that direction, because basically we still feel that's not a good option. But anyway, it very significantly complicates the space reallocation with the existing building renovation, and of course it's got a higher construction cost and a higher life cycle cost. Relocation of the county office building, that comes with the revision of option 6 to make it more presentable from Gay Street. You'll see that in the things. And then the last thing we want to talk about is authorizing the development of the old church renovation procurement. Getting that process started to not only do the exterior, but also do the interior, so that can be a swing space for when you start doing modifications. Unless you want to get rid of it, which I think you've already decided to keep it, all right, that we might as well fix it and use it since it's not being operated. Next slide. This is the Site 2 site plan. What you can see, it's in that same location. It's facing down the new road that goes over Warren Avenue. We use the same ADA parking behind the old church, and so let's go to the next slide. This is what the perspective looks like from that ADA parking space behind the old church. So you can see it's the Jefferson Jeffersonian type style, but it's not facing Gay Street. It's facing Warren Avenue. So then the next slide, we provide elevations in all four directions. The top left one is what you would see from Warren Avenue. The bottom left is what you would see from Avon Hall. Upper right from Gay Street, and the south one looking from the sheriff's office or from the old jail.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that with combined Commonwealth attorneys?
Yes.
So the top right, in the foreground, you're seeing the ADA accessible route from the ADA parking lot behind the old church, heading up to in front of all of the existing buildings.
Right.
And an important feature of this is to reestablish that accessible route so that it does not need to go, accessible route is not accessed from the rear of the buildings, which is not a great plan. It's hard to know you need to go there, plus that can then change over to a more secure parking.
And then the backside of this, the south perspective, what you're seeing there is, you keep in mind in both these, option 2 and option 6, it takes that whole parking area, it becomes a secure area. So it's no longer public parking back there. So you've got, judge can park back there, the sheriff, so it's basically a non-public parking space.
Prisoner transfer.
Right, that garage door is the sally port for the prisoners. Next slide is option 6. This is the same basic layout as the one we presented before, but it's got a new face. So next slide. This is the perspective. So the access is still on the side, but looking from Gay Street, it's looking like the old courthouse, all right? Again, this is the perspective from the ADA parking area. All right. Next slide. These are the 4 elevations. You'll notice in the view from Gay Street, to get so you can see that courthouse similar thing, the old admin building is gone. So we can eliminate it, or there's options on where we can move it, and we could move that in both options. The previous option or this option, either one. All right. The view from Warren Avenue, again, the white portion on the right is the entrance. So that big one that you see from Gay Street is not the entrance. The white one looking on the upper right, that's where the entrance is. You see from the view from Avon Hall, and he was there at our last meeting. He preferred this option for whatever that counts. And the view from the secure parking in the back.
I wish that the view from Gay Street was larger in this slide. There's not a way to zoom in on that, is there? On that?
Sure.
Well, you can, but see, the point here that we're trying to do with 3D modeling is put it as if you're walking down Gay Street. So that's the size that's the perspective you're gonna
Can
see.
you
from that.
zoom in on the PDF, Donna? Oh, you're on full screen with escape or something.
I'm sorry.
But that really is just a facade to look like it. It's not.
Hold on, let me make sure it's
You're on a later slide. You gotta-
Yeah, we'll let you do it, we do full screen probably.
Yeah, that's why I'm having a problem. Here we go. Is it better? More better? A little bit. I think that's much better.
It's still in perspective, though, it's still scaling.
This presentation is attached to board docs for those at home or here. You can go back to board docs, you can pull it up, look at it, squint sideways.
So, and this option still preserves that south-facing roof for the solar, and all the other benefits that were in that arrangement. But again, it's a concept, so when we get to the next phase, and hire the next architect to work on it, whoever that might be, then we go set of refinements of this and a bunch of other details. But this would be like the guidance document going forward.
What is the admin building?
Former county administration.
The dollhouse.
Thank you.
You may wanna, I guess, sooner than later, maybe talk about where we might put the.
Right, so if you go back a couple slides to the site plan for option 6. One, there. You can see upper left-hand corner, the one proposed location is out there in front of the jail. All right? Over here. The previous town mayor was there. Hathaway jokingly offered that he could have the building if he wanted to put a bathroom somewhere. But, he wanted us to take the bathroom. Anyway,
Small building, it's very challenging to find a use for such a small building.
yes, it's.
I would just offer in front of comment that the town may remain interested in that building.
Okay.
De minimis arrangement.
There have been communications with the
Yeah,
previous
yeah,
two mayors
yeah,
about,
yeah.
could be a town hall, could be a lot of things.
Right.
Well, we are
How old
town
is the
clerk's
building?
office, but
Right, now,
if we can figure out how to put it back to building.
I don't know the age. Personally, as an engineer, I don't want to be responsible for trying to pick it up and move it. All right.
Is it on a stone concrete?
Yeah. Nor are
A
we.
multiple, it's been, the original foundation
Can't
needs to be
say that
carried
at all.
on.
I get it.
So, from a cost standpoint, it would probably be easier to bulldoze it and build something that looks like it. But I don't know how much historic value.
I have a file on it that Peter will give you.
All right, option 6. No, I have 8, you're right. This is site plan. Now, this is, one of the designs for just the court functions. This does not relocate the, Commonwealth Attorney or the clerk's office as well. They would stay in their existing buildings, which means we need to find another 10,000 square foot building. So imagine something about, if you want to stick with the campus concept, something this big, and you want to avoid the oak tree, are you putting it down here? Avon Hall's not gonna like that, you're gonna put it over here, it doesn't fit there. So this option for keeping the campus concept gets very, very difficult.
Or we could have a referendum and move the new courthouse to Amesbury. We have a lot of land in Amesbury.
That's getting about as common as doubling your pay.
I just put that out there so that nobody forgets it. It's an option, should be an option.
We did, that option had quite a bit of, call it empty, basement space. So, we did another option, option 9, which is a slightly smaller building with a little bit less basement, but basically the same problems. All right? We did not go through the detailed layout, I mean, it's a very rough block diagram of laying out the spaces. But again, where you get this located around with the extra space, or you continue to rent, or whatever other option you want to proceed.
And you can see the common theme of all of these is trying to resolve the ADA access to the current buildings through the construction of a new lot behind the church building.
Right.
And then new walks up in front of the buildings. And part of the proposed recommendations from the earlier space needs was to get the concrete walks if you can away from the facade of the historical
From the
building.
restoration.
Every study we've ever done since I've been on the board is given to those sidewalks around.
And so that's why in these, they're shown well in front of the buildings so that you don't have that splashback onto the historical brick and mortar.
And most of the damage to the brick is coming from water running over the gutter, hitting that concrete sidewalk and splashing up on the brick. That's where most of the problem is coming from.
I just want to mention too, one of the other issues with these options 8 and 9 and having 2 separate buildings is one of the things we heard on the most recent round of feedback on some concepts is the preservation of green space on the concept on the campus as we have it now. And if we were to contemplate, trying to fit another building up there next to the sheriff's office, which was with setbacks, I don't think we even had enough room there. But that would erode the green space that we have on the campus even further, and I think that would be a real shame.
To add to that, you put a building in this area, you're gonna complicate how you protect this secure parking, all right? Which is one of the more important things that judge concerns about. All right, and getting to the Sally Port, so the person under trial is not getting the perp walk pictures. Yeah, you're famous for it.
So is rap news.
All right, next slide. This is, we talked about a little bit, the old dollhouse or the old admin building. Obviously, for the one that's facing this way, option 6, it would be ideal to move that or get rid of that. So really what we're looking for here is your insights into that. Do you want to keep it? Do you want to move it? Do you want to try and give it away? Or what are your thoughts on that? And I'm not for a definitive answer. Just give us, which vector we should be going on. All right? So the next slide and the last slide is what we're looking for is, do you want us to continue to proceed with the 2 big buildings, and if you have one selection over the other, or do you want us to continue and refine those last 2 and try and solve all those problems? Again, as I just said, what do you want us to do with that? And we would like to get permission to proceed with the development of the procurement documents, which would obviously have to come back to you with the financial numbers and everything else for approval. But let us get started on putting that procurement package together. For the church, for the old church.
That's the presumption that I think has already been discussed here, is that, Mr. Waters has said it's a sound structure. It has value. It's not a great size, but can be useful for some county function, and definitely useful for county function as you're renovating other spaces, treasurer's office, special revenue, et cetera. And so you could potentially move some into that. Unfortunately, today it has one door, no plumbing, and, not the best electrical. So we're talking about finding another egress point, fixing ADA access, fixing the doors, and, modernizing the building to accommodate that, which won't be cheap, but if the decision is that we're keeping the building, then you gotta make that decision or something.
And so you understand the leading contender for getting that space in the long run right now would be the extension office. That's the one that fits in there the easiest.
And I think it probably could be co-located with a meeting space, just like they have now.
Exactly.
That might
Should we
be
give
the
you a-
final inhabitant, but while we're working through
Oh,
all
it's
of
gonna
the
be-
historical buildings and everything that they need, and
Oh, yeah.
people are
That's
being
what she said, yeah.
relocated while that work is being done, so it's not disruptive to their public functions. I believe that the church can be a vital swing space, and it's a sensible swing space, because it's in the same general location as all those offices that people are expecting to visit. So if there's a sign on the door or on the sidewalk that says, "We're closed, come visit us in the white church," it's a very easy transition.
And it allows us to start those renovations of the treasurer's office and the common, commissioner of revenue's office, allows us to start them earlier. We don't have to wait for the new courthouse. So it accelerates the
We're
plan.
taking on water.
Because the other alternative is that you build the new courthouse, the clerk and circuit court moves to the new courthouse, and then the clerk's building is available for flex space, but that's well
That's down the road, so we get renovation out of, started sooner in those other two buildings.
One question about, the Methodist Church. If we renovate it now, have you already factored it into ultimate, space needs calculation once it's renovated? In other words, would it have a sort of a decided role long-term, aside from near-term, flex space use?
Yes, sir, that's what I was saying before, I'm sorry, I wasn't on the mic. Most likely, if you look at the space dominoes, right now, it looks like the extension office would go in there long-term.
Oh, okay.
And as Gary mentioned, that would give us a second conference room.
Oh, okay, I understand. Got it.
Realizing that this courthouse becomes your main conference room.
And probably board chamber.
Right, right.
The board planning commission, et cetera, but
Right, right.
that's still down the road, we've gotta get over there.
Oh, that's,
That's way down the road. Right.
maybe down.
This would be, I don't think, I mean, even though it sounds like quite a bit of work, and it's a little more expensive than it was probably the last time we talked about it, it's not that, it won't take that long to do it.
Well, the other thing is about the church. We have to work out the exact domino, who goes what when, and how you do it, but theoretically, for example, you could have a situation where the treasurer's office goes in there for a while until their building's done. Then the commissioner of revenue goes off. And then it becomes the board of supervisors meeting room while this building is being redone. All right, because you're not gonna be able to meet in the new courthouse. So, that's what I'm saying, the bigger, option 2 and 6, by putting all that stuff in there, simplifies that, and then doing the church now simplifies the transition plan.
Yeah, I can't give you the exact year, but I remember attending a board meeting in the old theater while this was being renovated.
On the other side of the street?
Right, in 80, whatever it was. They had, I went to 2 or 3 meetings over there, I don't know how long this was closed. But things are a little more difficult to hold court over there,
Yeah.
so. The board did meet over there years ago. And I was, vice citizen, Newell was on the board, and you guys.
So we're talking 2-3 decades ago, right?
1894, 95.
So somebody's gotta make a joke back.
1889, I believe.
Well, I think it's a great idea to fix up the Methodist church and use it as swing space. I would love that building. I think it's a huge asset. And I think it would look so good and, it would get the ball moving on being able to do the rest of the buildings. My question to you guys is, have you guys thought about what it looks like? It has no, I didn't know, but it didn't have any plumbing. And I can't remember if it's one giant room, if there's a back room, is there a?
Well, there's a
anything
stage.
underneath?
There's
There's a
There's a
basement,
basement.
basement in
That's
the,
where, yeah.
in the rear, which maybe is an addition.
Yeah, I think it's a half or
Yeah.
less than, well, maybe it's less than a half.
Is there a balcony in there?
Yeah, there was,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
The balcony is now
Whether-
AAV.
Whether we keep, I think the regulations are that the outside's gonna look the same.
Those are restrictive covenants.
So we're but we could make the inside whatever, so if we wanna take out that balcony and just have a big open space, and then the ADA access, I should have pointed down the other ones, is out the back.
Okay.
All right, or the second access is out the back. The ADA, you would have to come around and go in the front,
That would take some work.
because there's no elevator.
And it's split doors like downstairs, so
Yeah.
there'd be a lot of effort to figure it out.
What's the square footage on the church?
Off the top.
It seems like, I figure like 1,200 square feet or something, that could be usable.
So you're thinking how many people could move into their,
An office.
An office at a time.
Yeah, you can do
you'd
the,
have to put in bathrooms, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When did we buy that building? And how much did we buy it for?
It was swapped for the,
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
the
it's
last
swap.
swap.
Oh,
which is the library.
The property was donated by the,
Methodist Church,
sorry.
Methodist.
Yeah, but when there was, the county owned the current town hall, the town owned this building, and the family out there on the highway donated the land to the.
Woronski.
I think so, Skoronsky. Thank you. They donated the land at the library city hall, so in the middle of all that, I think the board did what they did, and it came up with these, the town wanted a covenant on this building, and the county says, okay, if you want to do like that, we'll put a covenant on the distributed, and, you know, it was a real friendly atmosphere. That has only gotten better with time.
Ron, we're gonna undo all
It's
this.
about, Madam Chair, it's just under 3,000 square feet.
Oh, thank you.
Not counting the balcony.
Not counting,
Or the basement.
not counting the basement.
I talked to a builder some years back, maybe 15 years ago, and they were talking, just to convert it to commercial space would be between $200 and $400 a square foot. But that didn't include any exterior work, and those prices are probably way up.
Well, that's, the number we were using in the previous ROM estimates was $400 a square foot for renovation.
That's probably gonna be bottom.
So, yeah, with materials and everything else, but that's why those are ROMs. So, that's why we wanna go to a procurement and go to the and get an actual real proposal.
I think-
that you can budget.
But just to refresh everyone's memory, we pay $5,000 a month in rent.
Right. So since we've been going month to month,
Yep,
we've spent $300,000 across the street since we went month to month without a long-term lease.
So do you guys need a motion from us? I'm in full support of.
Well, we need a meeting of those other roads, to make it less complicated. We need a motion on turning the building committee loose to start the procurement, process on the old church building to renovate it.
What exactly would that process look like? You guys would get designs, come back, how do you envision the entire process?
Well, we're working with Wiley Wilson. I don't want to get ahead of anybody else, but we're working with Wiley Wilson on the new courthouse complex. We still have, I think, 2 other architectural firms that we may be able to pull in on that, so that we don't have all the eggs in one basket and a long lead time just on getting the work done.
But I think it's a simpler process, it's not
Yeah.
complicated, it's really just give us a rough layout of the bathroom in the back, the stairs, open the space up and so we're flexible inside of it.
Right.
And then we can give that to a contractor for the interior, we already have an estimate that Dale put together for the exterior. Whether that's the same contractor or not, that's something we can look at to do. 'Cause it's all, in that case, it's all
Office
woodwork.
space type situations inside would be probably the fastest, easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I think you would want as flexible space as possible, and eventually you might do some sort of build out when you have a permanent, long-term tenant.
We want it sort of a blank slate
Yes.
for the
Right.
time being, so that it can meet any number of needs as we go through this process.
So you wanted a motion, it looks like there's one specific to proceed with development on the church renovation.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, for building committee to proceed with development of the Old Church renovation.
Well, I just want to be clear that it is going to look like it does now.
Right.
We're not going to change that.
Within
Sure. We are just,
might
and
do
we're
it
not
at
tearing it down.
We might do it at night.
And no murals, it will still be white.
We just want to make it a nice, usable space and fix the things that are wrong with the building.
And as Christina's pointed out, because it's right there on the main drag coming down to the new courthouse, you don't want some shabby old building sitting there.
Right. That would be a terrible entrance to anything that we might do.
All right, Van made the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, discussion? Mr. Witsi, what do you hear? I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed.
Now, the second motion we need, I guess, we need to know which direction you wanna go on the new building. Whether you want a tall building, a small building, and we start scratching for an additional 10,000 square foot. If we want the large building, which we'd already agreed upon once as a board, that decision was really already made. If we stick with it, do we want the, is it
Option 2 or option 6?
option 2 or option 6?
So is the building committee on the right track with option 6, which I think is the building committee's preferred option at this point, if I can put words in your mouth? Are they in the right track? As Randy on, send us a new suit on the same body or.
Right. And if it, whatever it means, the people that were at the last building committee seem to favor option 6 over option 2.
And I would say that one of the citizens who spoke vociferously at the, public comment period, was in attendance and seemed rather satisfied with this.
Yeah, exactly, there was 2 or 3 of them that objected to what we presented before, but liked the new suit.
And I'd say I'm not 100% sold on the facade. I mean, I think it could be, I think there's still room for improvement on the facade, but that, compared to the first rendering versus this rendering, I think it's night and day. And, you know, we'll continue to take feedback from the public as well as this board and the design details.
But those are design iterations we go through with the next phase of design too. So
Yeah.
we bring that back periodically for review.
And the first plan we saw tonight, you could probably tell everything's much more compressed in the way the space is presented. And, you know, the sort of spread of second large design does help break up the mass of the building. Is the general feeling we walked away with from the last building committee meeting.
Well, I definitely prefer an option that incorporates core functions. I think that's the smart thing to do. And I don't think that, I think it's smart to try and be efficient in space, but I don't think we should try to make it smaller. I think we'd just be running into problems 20, 30 years down the line.
You mean to combine all 3 functions?
Yeah, exactly. Have all the core functions in there instead of having just it be a courthouse. I think that seems to be totally the sensible option. And I agree, I do think that general concept works the best. But to Ms. Smith's point, it's the facade and all as Mr. Glenn said, the clothes can be changed. But it seems to be the most sensible option. And I'm wondering, Mr. Fraser made a comment, I don't know, many building committees ago, many meetings ago about underground space. And I think it's, whatever is effective underground is great, if it creates issues.
It has its own issues.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably less exterior maintenance to worry about, but you've got, if we don't stay on top of the heating and air system, you're gonna have mold issues. But it's just a matter of, I mean, they're building a lot of buildings today with green roofs, so they're underground, so to speak. They got 2 feet of soil and weeds growing on top of them.
And most of the office space is not underground. Most of the Gay Street side of the building, the lower level is mostly mechanical space.
Back to your first comment.
Yeah, exactly. At the current arrangement of the deck chairs.
Well, when you get to a larger building like this, there are, generally different HVAC options available to you as compared to a small building. You can more easily provide reheat, which helps keep that,
Secured parking.
humidity in check. I think as long as we go in designing the right way, it'll be very energy efficient, that section.
I just had a question, if we were to, put forward a motion for the building committee to, I guess, go further with, design guidance from our outside advisors, what's the cost each time we take that step? I mean, ballpark.
And so that's where, we're about at the point where the next step would be, you need to decide the building you want to start designing rather than a concept. And there are several steps of a typical design process. And we would see proposals from one or more architects, which could be the same one. That would bring us all the way through those construction documents. And you would get a look and see what that is gonna be now, before you proceed, I guess.
Okay, so you're saying no cost, basically, now we'd be seeking proposals, and I think
No, I think
Smith's point
There
is
might be
there'd
one step between now and then of more detailed planning.
Okay, and I just wanna make sure that, I wanna make sure there's still opportunity for public input and feedback. I mean, this is a big deal. And while we need to make progress, and I'm all for that, I just wanna make sure we're also not locking ourselves into something, one, that's costly, from a planning perspective, if we were to change directions again. And two, that there's no going back once we say, you know, please proceed in getting design proposals.
Well, and you know, this is a big decision. If y'all wanna take a minute tonight, and take it into consideration and have an answer for us next month, that's okay too, because it is a big decision. And, I mean, to me, this process showed me that I wanna do one building, which is a big step. Between the two concepts of a more compressed building or a more sprawling building, I don't personally have a preference. I think probably the more spread out building, it seems to be more palatable to most people. Maybe a more elegant design, a better face from Gay Street, more green space in front of the building. Those seem to all be selling points for folks. But I'm not married to one idea or the other, and you may want to think about it, and it's a big decision. You may have more questions for us, and you may want to hear from people in your districts, and come back with an answer for us next month, and that's okay too. That's why we keep coming back every quarter, because we know that these are big decisions, and we want buy-in from the full board and the public in the decisions that we make.
And obviously, when we go to that next step of design, you will see it again, the public will see it again, you'll see the procurement documents and so forth and so on. So those will be presented, this is not the last time you get to see it,
Correct.
by any stretch of the
By the
imagination.
time we get the procurement documents, we're kind of locked into the look of it.
Well, until the procurement documents are released,
I've experienced spending $1 million on designing a building, and the board changed majorities, and they decided not to do the project.
It happens.
Throw it away.
Are these site plans printed out at your office anywhere?
Thought they can be.
I just, looking at them on a computer and not.
Sure.
I'd like to see it closer.
Yeah, we have, these are all pulled from other documents, they're not as, we can get you clear.
well, yeah, to put it in PowerPoint, they have to take a picture of them, and so they got fuzzy.
And when I'm trying to zoom in, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any thoughts on the old admin building, must it stay in its current location? Is there value in continuing the discussion of, if you wanna have these kind of big lawn in front of a courthouse, as you see in, option 6, does it really work with that building there, is it okay to move it? Any thoughts there now, or is that something you wanna reserve for another time?
Hey, option 2, having that big lawn would actually be a detriment, because that side of the building is kind of ugly.
Maybe.
What's the feedback been on meetings? Is there a passion for that building? There seems to be one for the church.
It's definitely a historical building, it's been used for a long time, and like I said, I've got a file on it. I think it goes back, was attorney's office to start.
Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
But I think there was a building there before that building, when I looked through the records.
Well, you know, Avon Hall used to sit up there, and they just, pushed that back down there, rolled it on logs back down there. And that's why there looks like there's an empty lot there now, where that stone thing is. But may I just say something about this, please, because it's EDD. But.
Do you wanna come up?
The Methodist, well, the Methodist church has water in that basement all the time. Because when they moved Avon Hall, they put the furniture they didn't want in their new house. Mr. Bagley, my grandfather worked for him, and they put the furniture in the basement of the Methodist church. Well, then they realized that the basement was full of water, so they asked my father to get all the furniture out. I have some of it now, I had it restored. So, you can't count on that basement. And what I would really like to see, and I've been in interior design and designed outside buildings for many, many years in Fairfax County. But what I would really like to see is the church and the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, which is what it was. Those two can still be rolled down the hill and moved elsewhere. You don't have to pave it up. And this building has problems, even though it's been added on to. It really looks like two little slave cabins sitting there. That's what people call them, the slave cabins. So I would like to see these two buildings moved, these two little buildings removed. You've got to spend a lot of money on fixing them up. And I would like to see this brought somewhat forward. It's too far back. Then that gives you parking without people having to come up that hill. I don't understand why there's so many roof lines here, because that makes the building much more expensive. And this set-off that's here, I don't understand that either, because what does it really add? I just think that this is a very ugly building. So if you could just pull that forward some, and you still have a nice lawn, but these two go, and these two move, I think would be much better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The biggest concern I have is, what do we do with the occupants of the treasurer's office if we tear theirs off? That couldn't possibly be done anytime soon.
Well, Ron, you can rent temporary buildings.
Oh, I've been
You
saying
know,
that for
very
years.
big ones that they bring in and set up, you rent those.
Well, then she brings up another issue. Do you want to preserve those two historic buildings? That's been an assumption that we've made, that you want to preserve those buildings.
We heard from a large number of citizens that said, we want to keep this building,
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it was, wow.
Plus, you just can't tear down a historical landmark. That's,
You
just
can,
can't
but
do
the
that.
fines later might be a problem.
Yes.
But another point for Carolyn is, the reason the architect made all those ins and outs was to break up the size, make the building look not as looming. Go to the elevations of option 2.
It just leads to a high cost.
Yes, it does. No, the elevations. See, what he's trying to avoid is these big flat sides that make the building look bigger. All right, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, that's what was the idea, okay? That's what his goal was. And it's also one person's opinion. What's his name from Avon Hall didn't like the view of this one, all right? It looks like a big flat building from his perspective. So there's thousands of trade-offs here, and, you know,
The view from Gay Street's a little tough.
yes it is. Particularly if you take the head building out. I mean, but again, we can do something to the facade to make it look better.
Well, and I did ask, I think that was the question I asked, is if there's a way to work on this view from Gay Street and make it more, sort of near the front of the courthouse. So we would have that sort of look from Gay Street. And I think the answer was that it would be challenging because it's bathrooms on that side right now. And so to have big, windows is not really gonna work in the
There's a
bathroom.
portion of the community that might like that.
Well,
They're in Green
so
County.
it's kind of tough, and there may be a way to work around that if this is what folks want. And there may be other ways to work on the smaller footprint and make it more palatable to everyone, but,
So the guidance we're asking for, do you want us to continue to iterate these two? Or do we kind of take one of them and start down to the next phase of design? And what I thought Mr. Whitson's question was going for, if we iterate it again, what's the cost? Like, so what was the cost for this last iteration between? No, from when we had the public hearing that everyone.
Oh, that was still included within this.
Yeah, but how many hours did you burn roughly?
I haven't got that bill yet. Whatever was left, like 10%.
So we don't have much left.
No, there's nothing left,
Nothing.
basically, on the original scope.
Right.
Okay, so we're at the end of the original scope.
Which we could add to it
Yeah.
theoretically, if that's what you wanna do, don't?
I like the idea that you said, let's take a break on this one, give us a chance to actually go see the documents in your office or wherever, to be able to get a closer look at it, talk through it a little bit, instead of trying to force some sort of decision tonight.
I totally agree. What I did last time was I printed them out, I went down, I walked around the courthouse, just felt it out, and I would love to do the same with this. Because, to your point, I mean, it is a huge
It's a big decision, though.
And while I do, and I favor six, and I think that all the three functions in one building is the way to go, it would be helpful for me to visualize.
that's why we keep coming back every
Yeah.
quarter. It's a lot.
Well, we may not have to wait a quarter, right? We may come back next month and talk.
But that's why the building committee keeps coming back every 3 or 4 months. We know that these are momentous decisions, and it's important for everybody to be on board. We don't wanna waste that $1 million and then have a public outcry
Yeah.
against what's going on and have to, abandon ship. It would be a big disservice.
Remind the board and the public that on the county website, under the government tab, there's a subheading for building committee, and there's higher resolution documents available there as well.
I just asked for that.
But we do have the green light to go ahead with some work on the church tonight, so that's good.
And you wanted guidance about
Just thoughts on
thoughts on it? It's hard to say.
48 seconds, 48
Is there a
minutes,
basement?
it's gonna be a
No.
little shaky.
The rear shed addition is modern. Which you can't really see, that's where the bathroom is now. The front is on cobblestone foundation, the building's tough shape, but it has new electrical.
No?
It has new electrical.
Oh, new.
So that's good.
My only fear with moving is that we get into it and then all of a sudden be like, wow, this is getting expensive. This is getting very expensive. Oh my gosh, this is.
For something that we really don't have use for.
I know
That would be
people
my
have
only
said
fear.
something about a community, bathroom facility with the, theater being right there. Has that even been considered, just?
We didn't consider that at all because it looks, the view at the new courthouse just looks so much better without it.
We could go across the street to that one lot adjacent to whatever, wherever the town would like to put it.
I just have a Tommy Atkins Jackson District question. We've heard a lot of talk about this. I haven't heard anything about the cost. And yes, I have not heard anything about the cost. We have not heard a presentation that if you do this plan, it's gonna cost this much. And we've not heard a presentation about if we were to take down these buildings. Yes, we heard some outcry of some, maybe a lot of liberal people, that they want this to stay the same, but what about the cost? You know, there are still a few of us conservative people in this county that are concerned about cost. I know that most of them don't know what conservative, the definition of. I understand that, I get that. But there are still a few conservative people in this county, and that needs to be addressed. And when you put pictures, you put designs, I know the concept, but when you get away from straight lines, it's money. And when you get away from and refurbishing buildings, when you continue to refurbish buildings, it's money. Now, new buildings can be built cheaper. And the county, not just one public hearing, that you get word out to a few people to get out here that's real liberal, and they want all of this historical stuff kept, because it means so much to them, but they probably haven't been in the county 10 or 15 years. So how much is it really mean to them? And what does it really mean to the natives of this county? I want to see a good courthouse built, and I want to see a good municipal building that contains all of the county employees in there. I don't want to see the zoning administrator over down the street here, and y'all are paying, or we're paying, taxpayers are paying $500,000 a month. I think I heard Mr. Fraser say something about we've already spent $300,000. That's ridiculous, folks.
Well, that's over a period, of several years.
Okay, but I mean, that's ridiculous.
Over $1 million since I've been on board.
We agree, that's why we're doing this.
Right, okay. But I agree with you, we need to take more time. You need to take more time on this, and the public, the large majority of the public needs to be pulled into this thing. Not just a few, not just a few of these that come and mouth off. But we need to get to the people in this county. And that, we've got a lot of people in this county that have come to the point that they have decided it doesn't do any good to come to these meetings. Because nobody listens to them, and you don't do anything about their requests. So we need to do something about that. And I know you've got a hard job, but you know, in this life, we all can do better. We can all work more together, and we all can do better. So I'm just asking that we take time, just get this thing right, because we're not going to be able to do it for one time. And let's do it the cost-effective way. Not just, we don't, this county does a lot of wealthy people in this county. But as far as the revenue in this county, we don't have all that. As y'all well know, we don't have that abundance of revenue that they had up in Northern Virginia, Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Prince William County. We don't have that luxury here in this county. We got a lot of poor people in this county. We addressed an issue here earlier tonight to helping the seniors. And as I said then, there needs to be more help for those people. So I just ask us to take time, let's get it right, but just work together and get everybody's input, not just a few. We need to try to get everybody's input into this. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
We did that process this last year, I'll show you that.
And I just want to say, this is a long, this is always reminding me of the adage, you have to plant trees, you have to plant seed, remembering that you may not get to enjoy the shade of the tree that you're planting today. This is long-term planting. This is very challenging stuff. And as Gary said, sometimes things change. People may not always agree with us. We may have to go back to the drawing board. But we are renting expensive space. We have historic buildings and old buildings that continue to deteriorate, that we need to do something about, because the longer we put it off, the worse that they will get. We are very fortunate that we are able to use this space as a courthouse for courthouse functions. There are other counties that have received directives from judges to go and build a new courthouse because the current courthouse is not serving their needs. We do not want to get to a point as a county that we are instructed to build a new courthouse and we have no plan. We want to position ourselves optimally for the future, anticipating our building space needs for public efficiencies and for court functions for the people of Rappahannock County. That's the long-term planning goals. I think I'm summarizing them accurately. I hope I am for the building committee. We do take cost into consideration. I don't think anyone on the building committee can be characterized as an extravagant person, and we are at concept level, which is frustrating because it's hard to assign dollar figures. But we know the needs that need to be met. We are also very diligently paying off our debt as a county, and we are in a position to be, I know you always have these numbers at your disposal, Gary, like 2 years out from
2
being
years.
debt-free.
24 and 25.
So, we will be in a position to take out bonds to do what we need to do. We have an excellent credit rating as a county. There's no reason to put off to do the planning. We may disagree in the planning, but if we don't start to do the planning, we'll never get anything done. So, I know it's a lot of tough questions for people, and I hear a lot about money too, and people have qualms and worries, but I know that we are a modest rural county, and I would not take on anything that I thought was more than what we actually needed, and maybe more importantly, what we can afford. And if you look at all the rental space, how things are spread out, it's just not efficient, it's not effective, it's waste money, people get frustrated. And we are working, and, we'll continue to do the work at the direction of the board.
So with that, I can't do any better than my colleague or the county, so would y'all like to postpone the decision until next month? Or unless we have a meeting in between, and maybe we'll be ready to conduct the meeting.
Yeah, I do, thank you.
And of course, we're always here for questions, or if you have constituents that have questions, we will answer them to the best of our abilities.
Yeah. So I just want to thank all of you on the building committee for all the work that's gone into this so far, and I owe you time in the documents, and certainly I'm committed to that. And I did receive a phone call or two leading up to this meeting, which is why I asked the question about sort of costs that we might incur if we jump into the next step. So I appreciate a bit of a pause here to give us time to wrestle with this.
So the next step that we discussed with the architectural firm was to move into a more of a design charrette with all of the stakeholders. We've had the initial interviews with all of the building occupants. Except for, well, they're not gonna be building. But then the next is to really dig into that next detail level and work through iterative process with each one of those department areas. And we can't do that until we really know which direction that this is going. And we can stay in this kind of space for as long as the board needs, the community needs, to focus energy in the right spot, in the right direction. We don't want to get too far down the line where the course correction is much harder to do. You want to keep changing the lines in the paper today, rather than trying to change a wall that's already built later.
Correct, but still, there's gonna be a hard decision at some point.
Yep.
Because not everyone is going to agree.
Anything else from the building?
You, Ms. Chair Dunham, of the jail, which was authorized. We have made some progress on the procurement side with the, two-step process to pre-qualify contractors and then, bid that work out to those pre-qualified contractors. Mr. Waters has developed some documentation that we need to advance to the next step.
Right, and we talked about the next step is to do an acquisition study to show you how all that plays out. And that's what we're working on.
Anything else on open update?
Pretty much it, I believe.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Entertain
Thanks a lot.
During the building committee.